music is just so haunting. Yeah, but when you know it, you want to go
Wanna
and
sing
get
it.
involved in it. Yes. Good evening again, and welcome to the Reston Community Center Board of Governors for meeting for September 2022. First order of business is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next order of business is the approval of the July 25th board minutes.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The
I wasn't
next
here.
order of
Did you
business.
want it? Well,
No, I said abstain because I wasn't
Karen just,
here.
I don't know if Karen heard it.
Oh,
Lisa
sorry,
heard it.
ma'am.
Okay, all right.
Next order of business is the approval of the July 25th, 2022 board actions.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed or abstaining? Okay, the next order of business is the chair's remarks. And this has been an interesting week for me. I will bury one of my sisters on Friday.
Oh.
I am the eldest of 8, and she's the third one to go.
Sorry.
And people always say they're out of pain, they're in a better place. For her, it's really true. She had dementia and she was blind.
Oh,
So,
that's hard.
Oh.
so she was really tortured. I brought a daily trying to be positive. When we hide and try to be invisible and unseen by all, we're only hiding from ourselves. At times, we've all wanted to crawl under a rock and hide away from the world. We may have preferred to be invisible rather than let other people see us or notice that we exist. This desire not to be seen often happens when we are feeling very hurt, angry, or simply weary of the world. And while we may console ourselves with the defense that we are shy, an introvert or a loner, we may actually be hiding. When we hide and make believe that we are invisible, we can think that we can think that when no one sees us, even though truthfully we are only really hiding from ourselves. And while we may try to live life as inconspicuously as possible, we only succeed in becoming more conspicuous because people can't help but notice that we're trying to hide our light. None of us are meant to hide. Each of us radiates a unique brilliance that is meant to illuminate the world. When we try to dim our light, we diminish the natural radiance of the universe, and we deprive the people around us of the unique gifts and talents that we are here to share. Stepping out of the wings and letting your light shine is actually a way to serve the planet. We each have a responsibility to contribute to our community, which is what we all do, and we do this when we let ourselves be seen. It doesn't do anyone any good when we try to hide. We are all beings of light, and we are here to light the way for each other. When we let ourselves shine, we become a bright mirror that others can see their own reflected brilliance through. And they can't help but want to shine also. Shine your light out into the world. Bless those around you by sharing your gifts and watch the universe grow.
Nice.
Next order of business, introduction of visitors.
We have 2 visitors.
It's the big one. That's a reference for,
Oh, I want this.
you got it.
Those of us of an age.
Yes.
Those of us of an age, yes.
Yes, we
So,
have a visitor now.
I want to introduce Maggie Parker, who is Reston Community Center's new Director of Offsite and Collaboration Programs. So excited.
Thanks very much for the introduction, Lila, and thanks to all of you and to the chair, Bev, and to Bibi, the folks who took their time and to interview me and select me for the position. I am extraordinarily fortunate, and every day that I come to work, I realize more and more how lucky I am, because no matter how much you know RCC until you're in here, I mean, every day there's a new revelation. And it's busy, the staff needs to be more welcoming. Anyway, it's a total gas, and I look forward to helping the team deliver the brilliance further out into the community. So thanks very much for your support and backing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shan, you're Thank you.
And our second visitor.
And our second visitor tonight, I notice over there, I remember you. I resemble your face.
Shane Ziegler.
Shane Ziegler.
Mhm.
I'm happy to be here. Wanted to come and meet the rest of you. I haven't had a chance to meet everybody yet, but just wanted to see how these meetings go and learn the process. So really happy to be here.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Glad to have you. Very glad to have you.
Good luck in the election.
Yeah. That's,
That's right.
yeah.
People should vote.
Yeah.
It says, it tells us something.
away.
Yeah.
I voted. Did you vote?
I'm gonna let Heather do it.
Well, one year we had someone who ran and did not vote for themselves. It was like, you should be a guaranteed one vote.
No, actually, but I'm not guaranteed, it's up to Heather. So
Oh,
we'll
okay.
see what she decides. Actually, I won't, probably, but.
Well, she can't write anybody in, so you'll,
That's right.
you know.
You're probably pretty safe.
Yeah, I think Heather would be supportive.
I think so.
Yeah, anything to get me out of that? Yeah.
The next order of business is the July 25th Preference Poll Committee report from Mr. Penniman.
So we had the preference poll committee meeting on the 25th. We reviewed the procedures that have been adopted and implemented in the past. We checked the dates to make sure they were right, and we didn't change the procedures. So it was an efficient meeting, and I think the process is going to go well again.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Good. Okay, the next order of business, the next board's report is the Finance Committee year-end report from Paul Thomas.
The printout is in your committee report section of the binder. I walked through this stuff last month, so just sort of at a high level, things we went through, there is essentially deferred revenue, sort of revenue carryover, revenue that sort of came in the previous fiscal year, but really it's for activities that'll happen this fiscal year, so we tend to carry those over. Obviously, we have some capital project stuff that is carrying over as well. So we went through some of that stuff. There are also going to be some sort of HR things from the county that will revisit some of the personnel costs that we'll have moving forward. Some of these could help us with attracting and retaining high quality staff. And so we are hopeful of that. And you can see the tables of sort of broken down by section, the personnel, operating, and capital, and everything else, all the other sections. Everything pretty well what we would expect at the end of the year. There were no big surprises at the end, so that's always a good thing.
Thank you. Okay, next order of business is to approve the committee reports.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Next order of business is the board member input on activities attended since last we were here, and we'll start with Mr. Penniman.
Well, I attended the forum for candidates, and even got to preside. It went very nicely. We had one candidate unable to make it, the other two did, and they did. They're both very nice, good presentations. Glad to have Shane coming aboard. He was very persuasive. Beyond that, the task force finally ended. Now
Really
there-
should have brought you a bottle of champagne.
One?
Like getting out of prison.
Ripple.
Only one bottle?
He's probably already had it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now there are a number of meetings, public meetings and the like. If you are interested in attending, they are on the supervisor's website. And I've tried to send around some of that information. Beyond that, there was the farmer's market and grandkids.
Sweet. Karen, it's the handout about the task force meetings in the.
Yeah, it's in the handout
Okay,
section.
good.
Should be.
I printed them out in the racks as well for.
Oh, no, that's not, I put that in the racks. I'll get them though.
No, it was
Okay.
meant for the board members.
Oh.
But it's out in the racks. Bill
It's out-
sent a flyer for, and I think all of you were on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Okay.
enough.
All right.
Okay, so everybody got them by email.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. If you want another one, they're in the racks. I misunderstood.
The
what-
color copy.
Yes, I misunderstood what to do with them.
Sorry.
So, this last month, we've had a lot of family things which have taken time from going to other activities. But we went to the cardboard boat thing, which we enjoy every year. And it's back to, I mean, it wasn't last year, not sure it was.
2019
Last
was
2
the last
years,
one.
2019
And
was
it was so much fun, and it's just great. And,
How far do the people get before they stop?
Some go.
Some do quite well.
Got back.
Others not so much.
There was some
Kids,
kids,
the Titanic.
The competition for the Titanic
Exactly.
Award is
It's better
very
each year.
heated.
there was one where the boat sank very quickly. I think it was an assistant.
It was Lindsay
principal,
Trout.
Lindsay Trout.
Yes.
Yeah, terrible.
And she swam the whole distance, pulling the boat.
She got the Titanic Award.
Yes.
That
Well
was
deserved.
impressive. That really was. But Judy and family were visiting for more than a week, and that took everything. And also, both Mary and I caught flu, not COVID. We both had tests, 2 of them in my case, and completely negative. But it still wasn't very nice. And,
Gotta get your flu shot. That's a big
Yeah.
reminder.
and get your last booster. I'm
Yes.
already,
The Omicron booster.
yeah,
Tomorrow.
I'm already signed up for that. So that's about it.
I attended the boat sinkings and meetings and enjoyed seeing that and the huge crowd, you know, it has a big crowd. And YAT performances and,
The budding actress.
yes, and she's now writing scripts, so.
Oh,
right.
Hey, that's good, she's smart, that's the way you get a job.
Yeah.
Getting her resume together, so, yes, we've started the whole thing.
Stars born.
I love it. I want to see that resume. I think it's going to be great. I attended the candidates forum. It was really nice. It's always good to see new people interested. So thank you, Shane, for willing to serve the community and for the other people who are applying and going through to choosing to be a candidate. I also participated and helped plan the Carver Boat Regatta, as they call it, regatta. And we actually have the Restern Trust has some researchers are able to take an aerial view and tell you how many people are on the plaza and how it was going on. They get the number for that, and they feel that was like of everything that's happened throughout the year, that was the biggest event.
How many people?
I forget the exact number. Alex Campbell has it. They're trying.
Okay.
They're able to do who's in there, but there's more people there. Plus, they also said if you check, they're going to try and check with Jesus the restaurants. They know they made more money, and they knew the vendors that were there. So that's it. For those of you who know some of the other political aspects that are going on, it's really important to know that hey, when you do an event, it's a community event that other people help. But sometimes you can just do that without charging. that's a well attended, organized event for the community. We'll keep on doing it every year that we can. It grows each year. It's always fun to do. And yes, I don't know if it had to do anything with it. We need to get more people and engineers helping the different schools to build the boats. More of the boats sank this year. Maybe you just let the people do it on their own. They did better. That's just my thing. Lindsay's boat did not sink in 2019. They got there and she actually said to see it. But it's always really fun to see how it goes. There's a lot of input from her, so that's quite fun. I also, sorry, I took my mind's blanking. I've been trying to get out and about in different parts of Reston as it's growing, and I think it's growing in different ways. But people are like, I don't like this and that. And if you know any parts of the master plan, there's change that's happening in Reston. A lot of it's good. And so I mean, like the buildings, the parks, the things that are happening. It's good to every once in a while for me to get out to different parks. Being someone who's here back in the '70s and watch it grow. So it's kind of, I think there's a lot of neat things happening. And also, I just want to add, has anything to do with RCC, but I think it does. With a lot of the buildings that are, the apartment buildings and condos that are along Sunrise Valley and also over at Reston Station, if you go by in the morning, there are tons of kids at the bus stops. I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. But so there are a lot of families, young families moving into those buildings. Like, oh, no one can afford it. No, the whole situation, there's a lot of young families that have kids that are getting on school-age kids getting on buses. So I think that's a good sign too. Reston has young families coming. And I think that's all I can think.
Not a whole lot of meetings. The preference poll committee, the finance committee spent most of July and August trying to keep pools open across the county. We had to close the water line early this year. And the big event we had planned, dog days, finally had to get canceled because a filter broke, so stuff like that. And then just played a couple of tournaments. Played in the Hot Tamales outdoor tournament at Stratton Woods, and then we went to the Maryland Senior Olympics last week and won 5 out of 5 gold medals.
Wow.
And congratulations to Dick, who's about to embark upon a big birthday coming up that he informed me about.
80 years old.
80 years old. So
When's
that's
your
an
birthday?
accomplishment.
October 14th.
Oh, you beat
Oh,
me
we
by
have
2
more.
weeks, by 17 days.
I'm October 15th.
All right.
The 81.
Okay.
Oh.
Thank goodness
Thank
for
you,
Shane.
You guys are
Thank you, Shane.
Yeah, you were okay.
I have a sister
I'm
turning
like
80
60s.
on the 15th.
Oh, man.
Proud period.
When's your
This all goes
birthday?
back to Valentine's Day.
Jeez.
Well, you know, the cookies something too.
Are you on the 5th?
No, they said September 9th
What's your
has
birthday?
Nemo's birthday.
No, it's not mine, it's my sister's.
Mine's birthday September 10th, and there's like, you know, when Facebook tells you, there were like 11 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like Valentine's Day, September 9th.
Oh,
Is that your birthday?
Why not?
Winter.
I'm October.
so that's all.
Thank you.
That's a lot. Yes, thank you for that nugget.
I think the, unfortunately, I think the only event I went to was the cardboard boat regatta.
You
I
helped out
I
with
helped
those
out.
boats
I
out.
helped out looking around. I mean, Lisa was running things over there, but I at least was helping people get boats in. By the way, at that point, it's really easy to tell which ones are going to sink. I was I would tell someone, by the way, I like your all's chances. The other ones, they're not making it to the buoy. and I was pretty good with that. But it was a really great event. It's great to see that. Sorry I wasn't able to make the candidates forum. This is marching band season, and so it's always something with the marching band stuff.
Sure.
And that was we had a band boosters board meeting in preparation for Tag Day, which is this past Saturday. So that was kind of a big deal. That's when we raise like 90% of our annual budget
Yeah.
is on Tag Day.
I got the tag. I got the
Excellent,
money.
excellent.
Paul, we were visited by a kid who said it was for band
It
Good,
is.
and had a little thing.
Good.
I mean, I gave some money, but
thank you.
I don't know whether it was legit.
It was,
This
it
is
was.
this kid.
Was it on Saturday?
In a uniform or in a t-shirt.
Probably in a collared
No, it
t-shirt.
wasn't, it wasn't in a band uniform.
Not by,
Just-
but in
a
a
polo
gray,
shirt.
in a gray shirt.
Possibly, I don't
It
remember.
was a gray shirt.
But I'm just, you know, you hear so many strange things. particularly about people who come knocking at your door and you don't know them, never seen them.
Yeah, which is why we send them out in the shirts that really are fairly conspicuously branded
Right.
as South Lakes Band. They've always got the coffee can, and they've got the tag to hand. So hopefully they actually handed you a tag that had all of our concert dates and everything. So hopefully that at least gave them some credibility. And it's the same day for the entire county. And I think also the same day for Loudoun County. Like, it's just like all of Northern Virginia, all of the band kids are out there trying to raise money for their programs. So anyway, so it's been busy with band. We've got we had the Herndon game was on Friday,
Seahawks.
and that was good. And obviously a bunch more in the future. And then I've been getting up to speed on the Skipped. So I've got other meetings. I'll be going to the successful children and youth policy team that I'm now on, and so I've got a few things there, and a lot of conversations related to my campaign. So a lot of meetings. I mean, I'm just swimming in coffee, just like it's like every week, 3 days. It's like, you know, meeting someone else, and so it's a lot.
As my mother would say, you brought that on yourself.
Yes, I did.
You better balance it if you're gonna meet us 80-year-olds.
And if I can tease you a little bit, Paul, I've been participating in band tag days in this area since probably before you were born. No, 1975, when I was a member of Herndon High School marching band. Took a little hiatus, I always gave. But then my son was in the band. I was a band booster president like you, so yes, you brought that on yourself.
Yeah.
And then we still give every time they come. And if we miss them, we still give the money to the band.
Oh yeah.
So I know it's a big deal. I'm giving them all together saying you gotta go out and collect it, not hang out. You gotta collect
Yeah.
that money.
This is year 8 for us as parents.
Yeah.
But year 8, yeah, because you know, kids 4 years apart, they
Just
both
4
did it.
years apart, yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for what you do.
I don't know who actually won the Titanic award.
Lindsay did.
Lindsay Trout.
Lindsay did,
Terrace
Terrace.
Elementary School.
because Common Ground did the same thing.
Hmm.
Because
Swam to the end.
the kindergartners built their boat. And they have one teacher who weighs 3 pounds, and she could have made it down and back. But the other teacher who weighs 4.5
More than
pounds, she's little too, but 2 of them in the boat, it didn't even get, and they swam all the way back home to get 2, so I didn't know which one did that.
You got time. Lindsay might have swam fast.
It was really terrible. And I was thinking about your theater thing. My kids literally grew up in the theater. And Victoria was 9, and she made herself a costume, and she became really good friends with, oh gosh, now her name is going out of my head, and she's been here too, Bjork Lee. She became really good friends with her, and Bjork was there to choreograph Coconuts at Arena. My daughter learned the entire bellhop number, made herself a costume, and we went to Oakton to audition because they were gonna do The Wizard of Oz. And it was a vanity thing. These 2 mothers, one had a son, one had a daughter. And Victoria gets out there and taps and does this whole thing, and they were sitting there like, so you have to make sure you know where you're taking it. These people didn't know, it was sort of like, oh, talent, what do we do with this? So she kept getting smaller, more and more parts as the show went on. And she and I have seen Hamilton at least 40 times on Disney Plus. And my son won in the ticket lottery, so we got to go to see the show Thursday night. Because my daughter calls and we're on the speaker, and she says, I'll go with you. And Esme said, I thought I was going. So this was her first play without puppets. Because she plays with puppets. And she kept saying, are we seeing a movie? Is this gonna be the movie? No, it's gonna be people. And we were on the second row, and who sits in front of us on the first row?
Kristen.
Kristen,
We saw her
yeah, you
Facebook.
saw her, yeah, she put it on Facebook. Yeah, she comes and I said, we all had on masks, and I said, they look familiar. Yeah, so I saw them there. And so the regatta, the candidates forum, I was there, wasn't I?
You were.
And I sang another funeral for Tom, I don't know if you know Tom Avon. Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Speaking
So
of
next month, Shane, you will be telling us about
Tell
your
us about it.
adventures.
Speaking of singing,
I wanted to apologize, I accidentally
Oh,
left
right,
your
November,
concert off
sorry.
the reminders. Sorry, I thought it was October 29th. So, everybody, Bev is singing here at 2:15 on September 29th.
Yeah.
It is not in your reminders, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, they're all at work and,
Well,
no, sometimes.
still deserves a mention.
Yeah, thank you
I will
very
be in
much.
Vegas.
The next order of business is the executive director's report, the arts analysis report.
Okay, so there is an executive director report with lots of fun information in it. I won't go over it, you can look at it. But I hope all of you had a chance to look at the case study analysis. This is in response to Dick's question, why do I not see the theater in use when I am looking at it, essentially. But I wanted to give everybody a notion of what it isn't just the theater. The same staff is responsible for the center stage, arts education, and much of the community events programming that occurs, all of the off-site programming that occurs, and programming in the community room, like what we're listening to tonight, when it's a performance that requires sound and lighting components. So I won't walk through this line by line, but you can see on page 1, these are the budget aggregate numbers for these 3 braided together programs and offerings, as well as the participation numbers. This is all extracted from the 2019 year-end financial report and from our year-end data for 2019, so you should be able to walk back to those figures if you're curious. The following page describes some of the things that you have to keep in mind about using a theater. A theater is not a whole lot different from any other space. It's used depending on the way that people either recreate or meet, or in the case of the theater, the way people attend performances and the way that people who present performances work to present them. So we offer some background here on the kinds of uses that the center stage encompasses, and some of the things to keep in mind about how the calendar is managed for the center stage. And then we broke down what that means in terms of, for lack of any more precise term, we use day to describe a discrete experience. A theater day is not typically a full 8-hour day. It can be as few as 4 hours for a performance, because you have to come in, you have to prepare, and then you have the curtain time. It's usually an hour to 2 hours of performance, and then you have to strike afterwards. You have to put everything away and you have to pack up and go. But in this agency, we stretch our calendar to the outside edges of its envelope. There are frequently weeks and weekends where the staff is working 14 days in a row, and in those performance days, their day can start as early as 9 o'clock in the morning and go until midnight. So that's how you come up with more days at the end than there are days in a year. That's going to be harder and harder to do in the future because when, as I think all of you know, the county has adopted a collective bargaining ordinance, and that ordinance and the resulting union participation will apply to the vast majority of county employees below the S32 level, which will include all of our staff in the arts menu of program offerings. And it means we're either going to have to do a little less, we won't be able to do those kinds of back-to-back weeks and days, or we'll have to have more employees so that we'll have to schedule different crews for different rehearsals and performances. Then turning to page 5, this outlines the uses of the community room, and it's great that we're here tonight listening to the orchestra because this is one of 2 groups whose physical footprint is too big for the stage in the theater. And there are more such groups. We simply given the use of the community room for other things, mainly private rentals, social gatherings, meetings, community activities, and our own programming. We can't accommodate that many performances in this space. But these are the 2019 numbers for how that space was used. And then the arts education program, which occurs largely either in the dance studio, which is also the dressing room for the theater, so that also has an impact on the theater schedule. That's where our dance classes for kids are held. And then our fine arts classes all are held in the gallery, the art studio, the ceramics studio, and the sculpture studio at Lake Ann. And I wanted to include this because I want people to keep in mind this intensity of use and the fact that the demand for the visual arts program offerings far exceeds our space and our supply of spaces in those programs. So we not only have to be thinking ahead to the future in terms of the issues surrounding the end of our existing lease for Lake Ann, but also planning to try to address that demand whether we keep Lake Ann or not. So when we're talking about when RCC staff was participating in the community visioning around a potential arts center, a lot of the input was based on this kind of data and knowledge that we already have and demand we aren't yet able to meet. So it isn't the case that there is a whole lot of space that can be filled in any of our arts, community-based, and other programs. And then if you look at the final page here, 7, this gives you an idea of our current array of off-site arts-connected programming, and that is only increasing in number and increasing in technical complexity. So hence we have a new department and a new department head, and soon to hire a new community events director and a new 3 new, we hope, assistant theater technical directors to support this level of activity. So that's a lot of data and detail. I hope you're able to, yeah, Paul.
And by the way, on page 5, community room, arts performances, the South Lakes High School Jazz Hawks also use the community room for their jazz concert.
Jazz and desserts or something, yep.
May 13th is coming in. Get your tickets.
Wow.
Always be closing.
They're not, actually, ironically, that is the same day as Virginia Tech's graduation, so if they're not, we'll be out of town.
Yeah.
First, I'd like to thank you for the study because it's very, very thorough. I did have some questions though.
Please.
If you don't mind. one of the things that I tried to do with these numbers was to see from these numbers how you get to a considerable number of evenings where the theater's dark.
Well, it's
And-
dark to audiences, but not necessarily
Yeah.
dark. There
Well,
are
that's why,
rehearsals taking
Oh, of
place,
course.
there are changeovers, there are,
so that's what I was trying to get
mhm.
out of the numbers. And I did have some questions about them. Clearly RCP, which is dear to my heart, is probably the single most user of the.
Of the
center
community
stage.
arts groups, yeah.
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 And that was good. But I didn't understand some things. The Young Actors Theater, which I know very little about, but with the camp in the summer and their program, does all of that take place on the center stage?
Yep, there are typically 3 groups of 25 kids in each group. They don't just use the center stage. They use the center stage 5 days a week from 9 to 3 every day, 5 days a week. They use the dance studio, they use the community room, and they use the meeting rooms as well.
But while they're working, the stage is occupied. So, in other words, if the youth theater is in session, then
The stage is occupied. And not only is it occupied, it's occupied all day. And that means, there are 2 reasons there aren't performances in there at night during the, well, there are 3 reasons there aren't shows in there at night during the summer. One is that you can't make a staff work 5 days a week, 12, 14, 16 hours a day. The second is that the part-time staff that we hire, who are supervised by the full-time staff, they work the off-site concert series that are taking place all over the community throughout the summer. And the third reason is that when people, if you think about your own attendance habits, people don't tend to go inside during the summer. They tend to go outside or they take vacations. Those 3 months, June, July, August, those are the audience patterns. They don't go to shows in theaters at night.
And it's a great time to do the maintenance, which is exactly.
Exactly right, yeah.
Which is,
And it's a great experience for the kids to have an actual stage.
A theater,
And
a
it
real
makes
theater.
it feel like, wow, we're really performing.
Yeah.
And they learn about blocking and.
no, I just
all
wanted to
kinds of stuff.
understand that
So-
because I didn't
Yeah, they
realize
start at
that.
9 o'clock in the morning and they go to
Yeah.
3 o'clock in the afternoon.
And then my last question about the numbers is the dance classes. Do they take place on the center stage?
They take place in the dance studio,
Yeah.
but the dance studio is the dressing room
Yeah.
for the stage. So if you're doing dance classes from 3:30 to 5:30, you can't go in the theater and use the theater at the same time because you hear each other and the use isn't compatible because of the different sound issues.
Well, okay. The Rose Gallery isn't mentioned very often here, but aren't there a lot of performances there?
No,
No.
there are typically private piano recitals or private string instrument recitals there, but those don't require technical staff. Those
No.
are just private rentals, but there aren't a lot of shows there. The only time we've really used the Rose Gallery for a show is during the Multicultural Festival when we set up a stage and we typically had the traveling players on that little stage or
Yeah,
something
those are-
small enough because the room isn't big enough to put a
But
big
things
stage.
like the Ollie lectures, when I lectured for Ollie as part of the RCD program, it was in Rose Gallery, it wasn't on the
Mhm.
center stage.
That's right.
And so I was just wondering whether some of these stage uses were Rose Gallery. You're saying it's not?
No,
Shouldn't it be?
no,
No.
No?
no. The center stage can hold 260 people, so if we're gonna bring in, Art Spiegelman, we wouldn't put him in a seating capacity of 100 if we can put them in a seating capacity of 260.
Melinda Berry, who is one of my very favorite.
October 1st.
Yes.
Well, you also don't have the, the technical setup in
You
terms
don't
of
have the lighting
lighting and-
control, you don't have the sound control, you
Well,
don't
it's
have.
better now, I guess. I mean, it's-
Yeah, but it wasn't, the gallery isn't
not
designed
the same.
for performances.
Yeah. Now, my last question isn't about those numbers, which, are pretty impressive.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah, I'm not sure it provides a really convincing rationale for the new performing arts venue, but it certainly shows that the center stage is well used and when I say well used, I mean used well. But when we look over the first page numbers, it's obviously an expensive business. With roughly 1.2 million subsidy in 2019. Now well, my question is when we talked about the new venue, there was the statement that the tax rate will not go up
Correct.
as an absolute statement. And I remember I was questioning that. And I asked in the meeting, PD, how is he going to run another theater, even bigger, without more money?
Oh, it'll take more money. No one ever said it wouldn't take more money.
A lot
But
more
the
money.
issue is, can the revenue that's generated by the tax currently support adding the staffing and the operating costs that it would take? And the answer is yes, it can.
I've tried to fiddle with some numbers. I can't see how that's.
Well,
I mean, if you've got a subsidy already of $1 million, a bigger theater is gonna require at least that much of a
You
subsidy.
need-
We don't make that much of a cash surplus.
actually, we do.
And we will.
Actually, we do.
But also keep in mind that when that comes online, it's basically provable that once there is that piece of real estate there, the county and thus we will be getting more revenue because everything is tied to real estate. And so right now, we're not getting so much, but you walk this down, how many years down the road are we talking?
I think about 10.
So,
Really?
Yes,
actually,
least,
no,
at least.
even if we made it 5, Dave, the real estate revenue within tax district 5 will be substantially more than it is right now.
Yeah.
And so I think part of the discussion is, as the revenues go up, and they go up because there's more built real estate, there are more offices, right, as well as some residential, but, I think overall, I'm thinking it's gonna stay at least at the same 50-50 breakdown that we have currently.
Right.
Approximately. So if that happens, the question is, what do we do with that extra money to keep pace so that we're still providing the high quality
Yeah.
programs and facilities? And so I'm just saying, I recognize that right now, we might look at it and go, all right, it'd be a little tight to accommodate another
You
sink
could
of money.
easily, in the existing resources for this agency, you can absorb anywhere from $500,000 to about $1 million in added expenditures. No added revenue, just added expenditures with the available resources at the existing tax rate, at the existing rate of revenue delivery that occurs now.
Yeah, well, as you know, I have argued that our projections for revenue are too small.
I understand.
And they'll be, at least in the next few years, most likely more than what we've projected. That's my projection anyway. And I'm not sure that you can extrapolate that because you don't really know what the growth rate in Reston is going to be for either residential or urban. So have you actually done numbers, projecting in seeing whether or not additional revenue might be enough to cover the additional costs?
Well, I've given you the numbers that are relatively accurate for today, give
Yeah,
or take
today-
about 3 or
today, I
4%, okay? This is what it costs, direct costs for this program delivery now.
Yeah,
So you take what is here now, you don't need to duplicate it entirely. You need another half again as many staff, not at the upper management level, but at the execution level. And you have the capacity to rent the portfolio of spaces that were described
that's
in
some revenue,
the
so.
program design. So can we operate a facility on this basis that's equivalent, plus up a few hundred seats is really the only difference, based on the demand that exists today for the portfolio of programming that's described? Yes, is the short answer, with the existing tax rate.
yeah,
I know you remain unconvinced
Yeah,
of that, but
no,
you
but
have
the
to
point-
look at the year-end report.
Yeah.
You have to look at how much money we
It's the
return to the
projections.
fund balance every
It's the
year.
projections, and how much money it will cost to run that facility. I don't, how, in.
It will cost less than this.
what?
Yeah, this is
It's
why
a bigger facility with bigger.
Because we
Because
all-
you have the upper
we-
management already.
We
Yeah.
already have the management in place.
Yeah.
So that's
We,
not an
we will
enormous
already
space.
we will be able to, it isn't a one-for-one duplication of human beings. It's adding strategically to your technical team and to your box office team and to your execution team on the facility side of things. It's not, and then you add some contract expenditures for content, you add contract or part-time expenditures for arts education content, and then you rent the space
Yeah.
and you monitor the rent. It's not, the only thing that's different, frankly, is that there is a higher revenue potential in that 60,000 square feet than there is in the available complement of spaces that we have now. That's the real difference. But in terms of what it costs to operate the facility, it's less than what we are spending now.
It'd be interesting to actually see the numbers in terms of the technicians and what they would be paid.
It's the
And
same,
pay-
Dick. It's the same,
exact
only
same
less.
thing.
Why don't you believe the numbers that are in front of your face?
I believe them for center stage. This is another venue, which
It's
is
no
bigger.
different. If you have 700 seats, if you have 1,500 seats, you're not adding more technicians, you're not adding more management.
You're
All at
having
the
bigger performance.
But it
Yeah,
doesn't
but-
matter,
but
it
it
doesn't
doesn't
matter,
matter
it's
when
the
it is.
same amount, most of what's happening in technical theater now is digital. It's not like you need an army of people to move things around physically, and most of those kinds of performances don't involve big scene changes, they involve changes to the lighting. And so you move the show in, you sit all the musicians in their chairs, you put the singers on their risers, and they sing and they play, and it's 5 people who execute that performance. The same as 5 people in the center stage. It doesn't change the amount of labor, the number of seats. All it changes is the number of ushers.
Yeah,
And most
exactly.
of the time, the ushers are volunteers.
Yeah,
Right, right.
The ushers are not what I'm thinking of. I just find it unintuitive that you can put bigger performances in a bigger space with more complex things to do.
Well, first,
And do it with.
it's not,
First,
it's
you're getting
first,
something for
well,
nothing.
let me just explain it, and let me ask you to trust that I've been doing it for 50 years, so I may know what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
I'm sure you do.
Okay, so if you have an orchestra, they've been in here rehearsing the whole time we've been in here, there's one conductor, nobody has moved. They have all played, blown, sawed, whatever. But nothing about the seating has changed. No music stands have gone on and off. in an orchestra performance, only the conductor walks on and off, one person.
Yeah.
It's the same for the chorale. It's actually the panoply of uses that was described to us by this community for the last 20 years that they need is a big stage where all those people can fit and where you can put basically dancers between the ages of 4 and 14 who come on in groups and go off in groups, and whose mommies shepherd them from the dressing room to the
Well, I
wings,
can
and
certainly
they
see
come
that
up.
for the chorus and the
Right,
orchestra.
so it's
But-
just not, I know it seems like it should take a lot more people, it just doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't.
Okay.
And by the way,
Anyway,
and-
again, thank you very much for this,
You're
because I know
welcome.
I was one of the ones asking for it.
I know.
And it's it really is very thorough and very
I
good.
promised you.
And you delivered.
but this also, just to pick one other point, was not the document that was intended to make the argument that the art center makes sense. There are other
There are
documents.
lots of, this, I think, from Dick's perspective, was a missing piece. If you don't know, if you aren't living it day in and day out, you come by, you see those doors, they're shut. You ask, is there something going on in there? And people may know there is, or they may not. So it's fine, and I think it's a good added piece of information, and I'll send it on to the DPWES team, and we'll post it to the project page as well as, of course, our page, because I think it's the kind of information and detail that people are curious about. How do you run one of these things? And I think what's important to recognize is that you can't take community events and say, oh, we're just gonna do the community events, because that's the most bang for the buck. That's where you get your big numbers. You don't spend as much, because, it just doesn't take as much to make that happen. But the truth is, we can't do the community events at the quality and caliber level that we do them now without the benefit of the history, background, and resources that the center stage programming has given us.
Mhm.
And the appeal for all these bands who perform all summer long in all these different places is being seen by the public, but it's also being seen by the RCC professional arts staff, and to become known to PD, to Kevin, to Maggie, and so on. You can't get that caliber of management and staff support without this full, well-rounded program. And frankly, it's the kind of full, well-rounded program this community expected back in the mid-70s, when they demanded that their community center have a theater.
Oh, yeah, no, I think the program is fabulous, and it takes a little bit of stretching, at least for me, to think that the program could be more than doubled and not
It's
increase.
not really more than
Well,
double,
that's what you're
though.
telling me.
It's not really more than double.
Yeah.
And particularly, if you look at how long it will be, if that comes to
Yeah.
pass, we are simultaneously going to be continuing to turn people away without anything to offer in terms of space or class space for the arts programming.
And I can vouch for that. I have been turned away several times from the ceramics program.
Because there's room for
Studio
only
has
8
designed for so many
wheels, you
people.
know? So it isn't going to be the case that we just need to pick up what's at RCC Lake Ann and move it into this new venue. We're going to need the new venue space footprint for visual arts, whether it's there or somewhere else, and the footprint we already have at Lake Ann. And that's why I was so passionate about increasing our capital projects ceiling, because we have to be ready for that. We are already in too intense a wait list situation, and we need to be ready to grow our space footprint one way or the other in the future.
Okay, well, thank you again.
Yeah.
And did answer a lot of my questions.
Excellent, glad to hear it. So, do want to remind people about the Multicultural Festival next Saturday, 11 to 6 at Reston Town Square Park. It's going to be amazing. We've had the final phase of the roof replacement project is underway, so very excited about that. Still no solar panels built, but they continue to maintain at the county that they're working on it. There's some great information in here about
Another 10 years.
our equity partnerships and our other programming. One thing I'm very excited about is we've established a relationship with the Fairfax County NAACP branch, and we're doing a blood drive targeting people of color in conjunction with the MLK weekend activities to help generate blood donations because of sickle cell anemia and very other specific kinds of health challenges for that population. And I'm feeling like we're at the final 5% of the website project, so we're excited about that. The architecture of getting our community events information and the community's community events information to flow easily from our web track environment into a different web environment is the last little bit, but we're almost there, so.
Are they going to do a beta?
Yes, we will be doing focus groups and beta testing and all of that good stuff. We have migrated our web track from servers to the cloud, 21st century.
Awesome.
It was not an easy migration, a little bit of hiccuping on the way, but we're up and running and seem to be functioning fine now, so that's all good. Preference poll started on time and smoothly, so please vote, exercise your right, exercise that muscle. And I, to the point about my experience, I've been made the chair of the Fairfax County Arts Committee for FY23, which will help us shepherd all of the facility planning for arts venues through a number of processes and places throughout the county. Very excited about that.
Awesome.
She'll be going to lots of meetings.
Right.
Okay, is there any leftover business?
The only thing I wanted to bring up, because I don't think it actually qualifies as either kind of business, but I would like clarification on the timing for the appointment of the three candidates for the
So
Board of
the
Governors.
poll will close on the 30th.
Yeah,
We'll transmit the results to Walter's office.
yeah.
And it's usually the second board meeting of the month where those appointments are moved, but if it happens in time, he may be able to do it in the first Board of Supervisors meeting in October. But he will make the appointment in October, and then we close this board year in the front half of our meeting in November, and then we will have a new board seating at the second half of that evening, and that will begin the new board calendar in November, first
That's right.
Monday.
So next week, that next month, that's your last chance to relax. And then it goes to the grindstone in November. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any new business? I just want to say I'm very glad that you had this little report, and Dick, you got to hear all of these things, because this is the last time we're gonna have a meeting that lasts till 9 o'clock. Okay?
Wow.
You got that?
I didn't say that.
You've been very patient, Bill.
Yes, yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay, there's no new business. The September 2022 meeting of the Reston Community Center